Welcome everyone to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson from Five Towers Media. I'm here with Jake Revers today from Jake. Is it Jake? I'm going to screw it up. So tell me the name of your company now.
You already did.
I know. Did I say your last name wrong?
No, you did. You got that part. No, it's the Revers Agency at Rolling Bones Outdoors.
Revers Agency. And we're going to talk about what that is in a little bit. But I got to just mention your beard's on point right now. You came in, I was like, Jesus, these guys' lines are clean. Like, did you just have that done?
Well, I had to touch it up. You have a long-standing relationship with your beard, so if I'm going to go see Mike, I got to keep it tight.
You got to keep it on point. I know mine's getting a little rough right now. I'm going to see Chris Jordan at KJ's Barbershop on Thursday. So I wish I could have gotten it because now I got like line envy on the beards. I'm getting a little shaggy.
Yeah, it's tight up here, not so much down here.
Well, you got to leave it a little loose down low, especially when you got those wisdom highlights coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those are new. I mean, it's been, how long has it been since we've seen each other?
It's been probably
at least a
year and a half.
Yeah. Rolling on 2.
Yep.
Yeah. So we call those wisdom highlights, by the way. It's not gray hair. It's wisdom highlights. So you're obviously wiser now than the last time I saw you.
That is correct. Yeah,
Nice.
I've learned a few things.
You've learned a few things. That's good. Growth is important.
Most importantly, what not to do.
What not to do.
Yes.
I'm sure if anybody has listened to my podcast before, I've said it. I like to learn lessons really hard, like 3, 4, maybe 5 times before I actually make any changes in behavior. I really need to make that mistake over and over again. So I feel your pain.
I'm sure we can trade stories before it's all done. So,
Jake, so let's start off with that. Tell us, or tell our listeners what your agency does.
Yeah, so the Revers Agency at Rolling Bones Outdoors, we are an outdoor and adventure booking application service company for the hunting community, the outdoorsmen, right? We're an individual booking agency that's backed by a larger corporation, Rolling Bones Outdoors. Mm-hmm. But, as far as an advisor consultant role, we got the Revers Agency at Rolling Bones Outdoors. So anyone who's in the outdoors for hunting and fishing, they want to go on an adventure and they don't know where to start, that's where we would come into play. Mm-hmm. Everything from finding a hunt to doing the applications in-state, out-of-state, coming up with a hunt plan, hunt strategies, and then finding ways to execute that. And that's all backed behind a best match software where you tell us where you want to go, how you want to do it, what's important to you. Mm-hmm. And we have a catalog of over, 500 adventures that we've gone out there and personally vetted through, questionnaires or people who have done those hunts where we can actually match the hunter to the hunt. So that way, if you want to go on an elk hunt in Colorado, we can get hyper-focused and tell you what units break down to the information you give us. Or if you're just looking for a general overall, great adventure, best value, and hope it works out, mm-hmm. There's different hunts like that as well. But it's not just in the U.S., it's worldwide, And then for everything from there, we can outfit you to the hunt, make sure all your gear's set up, ready to go. If you need help dialing in your equipment before you go, our goal is so that you can go out there and everything that you work from us from an advisor consultant role, you can be, you know what to expect. Mm-hmm. The only thing you have to go out there is do the work once you get there with the outfitter.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love what I get to do every day, but I often think about if I had made different choices in life and went more towards like the sportsman side of things, because I think it's amazing. It's the sound of it. All business is hard, so I know it's not all puppies and kittens, right? But it just sounds amazing to me what you're doing.
You know what? If I could have started this 20 years ago, mm-hmm. What a game changer it would have been.
Yeah.
I would almost say that I'm behind the 8 ball.
Sure.
From the strategies on what to do from state to state, the different laws, regulations, where you can go, what you can't do. I'm at the point now where, for us, we live in upstate New York. 4 years ago, I was just hunting deer, turkey, and bear here in New York. And now I have a 19-state application strategy all across the U.S. And I'm looking to go out to South Africa, New Zealand. These are all things that I didn't even know how to start 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I have a planned strategy in place, which helps other people like myself go out there. I'm my best client. I really am. I've learned so much along the process, and there's still so much more out there.
Do you do those kinds of hunts, or have you done those kinds of hunts?
Well, yeah. So the nice part is, I'm not the only advisor within Rolling Bones. We have advisors all across the country. It's a franchise organization now. Okay. We just got franchise approved. So we're selling adventure hubs all over the U.S. But
adventure hubs, God, it sounds so amazing.
So picture like a Cabela's, but more boutique. like a select Sotheby Realty, but you're getting that kind of service when you walk in.
Yeah.
You're not overwhelmed, like, oh my God, where do I go? It's really dialed in and focused from coming into having, a hunt plan done, a live consultation, a gear fitting, you can look at optics, everything you need for your hunts.
Yeah.
So we're now approved to do all those. But as far as going on the adventures, my last one I went was out in Montana 2 years ago, and it was phenomenal. Nothing like driving in your truck across country, getting there at camp, 70 degrees on Friday. You wake up next morning and it's 20 degrees with 3 feet of snow, 85, 100 feet up, in the mountains.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went out there with my dad, and that's what got me involved in this whole thing, is really living out a dream come true, like a bucket list hunt for my father that we didn't even know was possible. That's how we got started,
amazing.
And now here I am helping other people do the same thing.
Yeah. That's, and that was elk?
That was elk. Yeah. Yep.
They're big, huh?
They're a lot bigger than you think. That was my first elk hunt at the time. I didn't know what to expect. Yeah, I learned so much.
Bigger than a whitetail.
A little bit. Yeah.
That's so much fun. And now, obviously, and for the people that are listening, if you're a hunter and you hunt in the Adirondacks, for the people that aren't hunters that don't agree with hunting, I'm sorry. But for the people that do hunt and hunt in North Country in the Adirondacks, I mean, like, we all know, like, you might get a 70-yard shot with a rifle, maybe, I mean, you don't get a lot of, but Montana, is it the same, or are you getting longer sights on elk? Like, are you shooting 200 yards? Like,
so the short answer is no, it's not like here. It's completely different, but you can get in the thick stuff real quick depending on where you go. I'm a bow hunter. I love bow hunting whitetail here. I went out there. I feel a little jaded now.
Really?
Yeah, like I still love to bow hunt, but I got the itch so bad, to go out there again. That's why I now have a strategy in 19 different states, and what I want to do, everything from deer, elk, antelope, moose, bear. But there's nothing like getting on top of the mountains, 65 to 8,500 feet up and just glassing for miles.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't glass around here.
You can't glass.
You're sitting in a stand most of the time.
No, most of the time you're taking a hat and swatting the black flies out of the way. That's your glassing. But no, so my whole optics setup, my firearm setup was completely different than I had.
That was going to be a question
for.
I had for you, yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, we're used to shooting, the 3x9x40s, 75, maybe 200 yards tops across the cornfield.
200 yards sounds like a lot. Yeah, maybe if you're out in Washington County, right, and you're on farmland.
But you show up to camp out there, and you're like, okay, let's take a shot at 100, 300, 500, just to get on steel to make sure you're good. Yeah. So, and that's stuff we help people with. We have the ability to send people to shooting schools to help them be comfortable, if not with their current firearm setup, to help them upgrade, or we have a whole separate sister company with Badlands Rifle Company that we can sell you new mountain rifles or high plains rifles. So
now, forgive my ignorance. I'm familiar with long rifles. I'm shooting a 783. It's a 7mm mag, which still pretty good size. For around here, it's more rifle than I need for whitetail, to be honest. I have a 243 as well that I hunt with, but. When you're looking at setups, like what is the rifle setup that you're like? Tell me about that gun.
So this is a conversation that's never going to have a clear-cut answer, no matter who you get.
Everybody's got an argument.
The goal and what you're trying to do on your setup is consistency and becoming a better shooter. Mm-hmm. If you're a good shooter and you can shoot consistently, from that, let's say 150 to 400 yards is a shooter, and you need the setup. If you can do that consistently, a good shot's going to put an animal down. And you also want to be able to have a setup where you can follow through and take a second shot quickly, right? So the first one, you might be right on point, but, an elk, 1,200 pounds, for some of those big bulls, you might need to put a second one in him depending on where he's running.
Dude, I was listening to a podcast with Mike Glover. I don't know if you knew who Mike Glover is. And he was talking about going out west. And they were, I forget what rifle setup he was using, but they were shooting 6.5 Creedmoors for rounds. And, with like Bluetooth scopes and all this crazy wild shit that I can't even imagine.
Technology's insane what they've come up with.
Yeah, I'm still shooting a 25-year-old scope. And he was talking about it, and where like they were hunting elk. And his guide was like, all right, Glover, this is your shot. Hit him. So he hits him. And the elk didn't even move. He's like, hit him again. Hit him again. And he said he must have put 3 or 4 rounds into that elk because they had like a really mild winter, and so they had just eaten a ton, and so they had all this fat. And he was like, if you want to be able to do a nice, clean, ethical kill on that animal, he's like, hit him again, like you got to get penetration. You're going through a lot of hide and fat with how fat the animals were.
Yeah, like I said, the caliber set up in the rifle that you use, the argument's going to go on, right?
Yeah,
There's people
yeah.
that can shoot a 6 Creedmoor and clean shot, 2-3 shots, no problem because of their setup. They can get them in 3 shots in less than 8 seconds, right? Because they're just following.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah. So it all goes into practicing. Anything you need to do, whether you're an archery shooter, rifle shooter, you need to practice and then you need to be out point. If you're going to go out there and wing it, you're going to get wing it results. And we don't condone that really in what we do. We want to make sure you're as prepared, and that way you can have those clean, ethical kills.
Yeah.
Stuff goes awry in the field, right? That's
For
the other
sure.
part of it, right? You don't know what you're going to do. Like, so for example, I shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. And when I was out there elk hunting, I knew that it had about a 5 to 550 yard shot distance to where the impact wasn't going to do anything after that.
Yeah.
And we had to put a stock on an elk at the end, and it was about 585 yards. And I knew that was just outside of what it was going to do. So my guide at the time actually had me shoot his rifle. Now, it didn't come together right at the very moments. We took almost like a 1,800 yard stock in the last hour of daylight over 3 mountain range, 2.5 feet of snow, and we tried to get there. It was the hardest thing physically I've ever had to do. I had an outer body experience just getting there. I'm dropping my pack. The other guy took my gun. We made a plan. He said, all right, Travis is like, I'm going to get up there. I'm going to have it set up. When you get there finally, you're going to be ready to go. I said, let's do it. And we worked. Like I said, never worked so hard in my life. Finally get up there, we're 10 minutes to shooting light. There's 2 big bulls, probably like 350 to 370 we figured. We closed the distance. We got there. They're going up the ridge. There was 2 sets of pines coming up the ridge, and we figured they were going to walk behind that and keep going. So I had them on point. I had trouble. Now, this is going to be a what not to do scenario, right?
Okay.
So I got to camp, and I shot my rifle because that's what I planned on using. But we made a infield decision, say, okay, we're not going to get up there in time. We're going to be able to set up, and I'm going to have it set up for you. So Travis, I didn't shoot Travis's rifle. So his eye relief and my eye relief were 2 different things. We have 2 different things. I don't wear glasses. He does. So the prescription and his focus, I couldn't figure out how to get that in focus at first. So once I finally got it, I got it said, okay, they're going to pass through here. When he comes out, we're on. They went behind the trees. They never came back out. So and we're probably 4 hours up from the truck and everything where we are at this point. So we went through all that work, never got the shot off.
Oh my God.
But that's hunting. But I tell you what, it was the wildest experience. And like I said, the best workout I ever had in my life. I thought I was going to die on the way down the mountain. Because then we're walking out of the mountains and it's pitch black. I'm like, you feel so small out there in Montana at night. There's grizzlies out there. There's mountain lions. There's things out there that are way bigger and better than you. And I literally told Travis, said, hey, if this is the way we go, this is the way we go. I'm going to take my sweet ass
There's
time.
worse ways. There's worse ways to go.
But it was an amazing experience. But like I said, my gun wasn't set up to handle that shot. We made an infield decision. These are things that we can now, for me as an advisor, consultant, help people. Now, number one thing I do when I tell you to show up at camp, shoot your guide's gun. Ask them to shoot a round or 2. Make sure you're familiar with it, because most people wouldn't even dream of a scenario like that. And I'm not the only person that has infield experience. We have lots of resources with Rolling Bones, because I'm an agency, picture it like a Edward Jones, a State Farm. We're backed by a corporate group of resources, so we have, hundreds of people that have been out there that have done it, that we can share this information with people. That's just my story, so I can help people more directly with that story. But wow, it was wild.
It sounds wild.
Yeah.
I like every time I listen to like Meteor podcast and a couple of other ones and a bunch of like bow hunting podcasts and stuff, and just some of the stories you hear about what guys are doing. And did you bow hunt when you were out there?
No, we went out there because it was my dad. It was an experience that we shared together. He's only 75 this year, so 72 when he went out there. We wanted to have the best opportunity to take down an elk. Next time I go out there, bow hunt all day. Yeah. And it's going to be in September in the middle of the rut, and it's going to be a completely different experience, which is what I love about what I do and just hunting and being outdoors. You never have the same experience twice. You learn so much of it. And if you fully embrace what it is that you do, it's pretty awesome when you get out there and just lose yourself and you're learning, constantly trying things different. Works today doesn't work tomorrow, so you're always got to better yourself and stay plugged in. Yep.
Yeah. I joke around about it all the time, but like I'm really spoiled because I walk 500 feet and I'm in my tree stand. So not as much adventure and a whole lot of sitting and, reading or whatever I'm doing in my tree stand to pass the time, because it's usually hours and hours and hours that I'm out there. But we're doing a trip this fall because we have a camp up in the Adirondacks. So we're going to be going up there for a week and doing some hiking into the Adirondack Mountains, essentially. And we'll see what goes on.
Listen, it's the biggest park in the U.S. pretty much. There's a lot of real estate up there to get yourself lost into and find some amazing animals.
And like where we are is like remote. So like we have our camp, and then you take a boat like around this whole peninsula, and then we literally have to canoe back. It's probably, to get where we're going to go hunt, it's probably going to take us 3 hours to get there.
Yeah.
And we're back there, man.
Yep.
So I'm excited about that. It's going to be the first time we did it. So.
No,
it's the first time I did it. My uncle, who I'm going with, he's done it plenty of time. He did his whole life basically, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound as cool as Montana.
Every experience is different, whether you're fly fishing, you're hunting elk, you go to Alaska, every place experience is different, and not to say one's better than the other, because I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone's got their own opinions on stuff, and that's great, but try it all,
Yeah.
I like I said, big time bow hunter for whitetail, but I love shooting turkey. Right now, I'm looking left and right for gobblers. You know? I can't wait to get out there. I'm going to go out there tomorrow morning.
I'd say I've seen a couple pictures on Facebook. People that have gotten a couple.
Yeah, the birds are dropping right now, so that's the great part. But for people that are around here that shoot eastern turkeys, I'm like, let's get you go out there for your turkey slam. Let's get you the Osceolas in Florida, or the Miriams and Rios out west, or if you want to get the Goulds down in Mexico. Those are all things we can help people plan.
Wild.
Relatively affordable too.
Are you bow hunting turkey, or are you shotgun?
So I kind of had a little accident in the fall. I fell out of my deer stand, actually, and I tore my bicep and my pectoral muscle. So my distal bicep came right off. I fell right out. I was just getting ready to latch in for my stand, and the whole thing gave right out.
Oh my God.
I fell 18 feet. And so I just got the green light a couple weeks ago to kind of get back to full duty. Been strengthening it up. I haven't even tried the bow yet. So
Interesting.
The first one's going to be with the shotgun. Once I get the first one, the second one I might try to pull the bow back.
Go with the bow.
Yeah.
I just started last week. I just started shooting my bow again. The last 2 years I kept saying all summer long I was going to shoot my bow, get dialed in.
Yep.
And then hunting season came and I hadn't shot my bow, and I didn't feel good about going out in the woods with a bow I hadn't shot in a year and being able to make a clean shot on it and make an ethical kill. So I didn't do any bow hunting.
Yeah.
So this year though, I'm like at least twice a week out there shooting.
Yeah, no, I was really looking forward to going out and taking two with the bow this year, because I've never gotten one with the bow. This is the first time I wanted to step into it. But I love knocking those turkeys down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually never been on turkey hunting. Always had buddies that did it. Always had buddies tried to get me into it, and I just never made the time to make it happen. So one of these days.
Yeah, it's nice because you can get out there 2 hours in the morning before work even starts, and go right when they're most active, get them coming out of the roost in the trees and hear them gobbling, throw a couple calls out there. And when they respond, you're like, oh God, he's right there. And then you think they're coming one way, and all of a sudden they're circling behind you. You have no idea what's going on. You're like, where'd they go? Next thing you know, they're on the left-hand side. You're like, and they're so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got them all over the place out here.
Yeah. I have them behind my house right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't drive down the road right now without seeing turkeys.
Yeah, they just don't come out when the firearms
when you want them. Same thing with deer, yeah, or on your land, right? If they know you're out there, they're not coming out there. It's just kind of how it goes. So, how'd you get involved in all this?
So, you and I have known each other for many years.
I don't even know how long now. Yeah,
and through networking locally, right? Yeah. The founder of Rolling Bones, he's out in Spearfish, South Dakota right now, but he grew up in Iowa, and he's got a financial services background, and that's kind of how the model all originated, right? But through his business, he knew a couple people related, and Rob Schauger was one of the guys that introduced me to a guy, Mark Edwards, who's a local financial representative, and they got talking, and Rob's like, you got to talk to my buddy Jake. He'd be all about this. Mark and I literally met, at Bentley's one night, just had a drink, catch up, and told me about it. He wasn't even done in the first 5 minutes. Like, I'm like, there's an opportunity for me to potentially have a business doing what I love, hunting, and then I could share that experience with everyone else. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I don't even know how it works, but let's do it. I'm in. You don't even say anymore. So I started doing that off, the first couple of years part-time, and turned it into a full-time gig. And the really cool part about it was, like I said, I had no idea how to get out west, what to do, what to start. And he kind of ran me through a little bit, things here and there. And we talked about Montana. I'm like, I'm probably going to need, years to get me out there, both financially and to get these things. I think they're called points or something. Like I didn't even know at the time, right? Because I'm used to just going to my dad's house, hunting on property here, or to my buddies, or going to the Adirondacks. And he's like, no, it's actually really easy. I'm like, okay, tell me more about it. So I started talking to him and the home office resources, and like, no, we have an outfitter. It's within your budget, because we did this thing called the hunt plan, like I said, which is the who, what, where, why, when, and what's important to you. You know, there's probably 30 plus questions that we really dial it in to find what it is that you're looking for. We found an outfitter that matched all those things, which I'll touch base here on in a minute. But so I'm like, okay, so it's June now. I can apply for a point for deer and elk. So that way I have a point. We can put it with an outfitter, and then in the March we can draw and hopefully go. So in 9 months now, we can go on this hunt. And they're like, yeah. So I did that. I put in for my points, put in the application the following April, drew the tag, and then we were out hunting, in less than a year, which I didn't even know would be possible. And I thought these hunts cost like tens of thousands of dollars, but we actually found one that fit our budget. And, the description and everything that, Mark and the home office led me through was right on point. And I'm like, this is wild that this is how this service works, where they've gone out there, they've vet it, they have the descriptions. I was able to talk to the outfitter to answer any of the questions that the home office which they answered them all anyways. But I had a really good feeling, and I'm like, yeah, let's drive out here, Dad. This is what we're going to do. I totally overpacked for the trip. I wish I had left half the stuff home. But we went out there, and I learned so much as, an outdoorsman. Because at that time I was also an advisor, because I was doing this for myself, but I booked my own business, doing that. But I learned so much from the guides out there elk hunting. I mapped all my hunts, all my logs. So now I'm familiar with the area. So if I ever wanted to go out there and do it just myself, which I'm going to do in a couple of years, I'm comfortable enough being an outdoorsman now, having local knowledge, resource, what to look for. I didn't even know what sagebrush was out there. I didn't even know how the deer hid out there. And, Travis was showing me, hey, for the whitetails, look for this. Because I also had a white-tailed mule deer tag as well. And he's like, yeah, you're looking for the ear sitting up and they don't move. And, and the next thing you know, we're looking in like hundreds of acres of sagebrush. And it was like, all of a sudden I can see one deer, two deer, which before I didn't even know what to look for. We'd be driving around looking for elk tracks at the top of the mountains. I didn't know how to look for them at first. And then he showed me, where to look for, what to look for, what were fresh, what weren't. So you just gaining all this knowledge. Yeah. So I went out there as an outdoorsman, as a member, and also as an advisor, really living out one of my dad's dream hunts. Yeah. So it was phenomenal. We didn't come back with anything. We had lots of opportunities. I told you that one story there with the elk that we had there, which would have been monsters to have. Oh my God, that would have been, I would have retired. I'm like, it doesn't get better than that.
I'd never hunting again. That's
but there's a lot of opportunities. The accommodations were great. The food was great. The people were great. It was an experience that I would
say just the experience, whether you shoot something or not. I know, like, whether I'm going hunting or fishing, like, I don't give a shit what the result is. It's always great when you get something, but even if you don't, like, still just a great time.
And I got to spend it with my dad.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that him and I have like an unbreakable bond on, like for years after years. And, time's getting limited these days. So that's what made it super special for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had our opportunities, we chose what we wanted to do. And that's what we tell everyone. We'll have you prepared, all your expectations set up and everything. But you have to be the one to be able to close the deal. You got to be able to put in work, make the decisions. You're going to choose to shoot, not shoot, because the guides work their butt off for you out there. They really do everything. And at the end of the day, the way we describe the adventures is if you can come back without getting something and you feel fulfilled and that you had a trip of a lifetime, we did our job.
Yeah.
Right. Some people, that's all they focus on, is coming home with something.
Yeah.
But if we can build out the expectations and really, give them an image of what that adventure is going to be like, because there's no such thing as a guaranteed. There's hunts for that, but we try not to go that way. We have them available because there's physical limitations that people have where we do have to go in that direction as long as they're okay with it, because some people don't mind, and that's completely fine. Everyone's got their own preference. But there's something for everyone out there.
Yeah. I think the fact that you might get skunked is what puts the sport in it, right? Like,
there's no guarantees. You're hunting a wild animal.
Yeah. Like that's, I love it personally, but explain the, you said point and then you drew explain that to me.
So each state's different. You have your licenses, which you need to hunt, right? Then you have your tags, with your game tags, and that's the easiest thing. Like in New York, you have your license and you got your different tags within your licenses. But for a lot of states, there's different preference point systems, which means you have to either each year you can only get a point, but some hunt units might take 10 points for you to even have an opportunity to either draw or go there, right? So you'd have to spend years building up these points.
Well, so what do you do to build up the points?
You purchase a point.
That's just it. You just pay money.
You just pay money to get a point, right? So
God,
that
I love
way,
our government.
And that's not in New York. I'm talking about other states right now.
Yeah.
New York, don't listen to this podcast. New York, don't ever do this.
We love you, Hope.
But there's a time where they might start doing it to non-residents right now, but they don't really have they have it for a point system for our doe permits here in New York. Right. You might not draw, but the next year you're pretty much guaranteed if you don't for the extra tags available. But yeah, there's lots of states where there's trophy units, management units. You can have one state where you can get over-the-counter tags. You might have to apply for points, or there might be units that make it even more confusing, bonus points. And I'm not even going to get into that because most people don't understand that. But that's where we can help people understand and cipher through all that and have a strategy. Because, I'll use elk for an example. People want to go out west, but they don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. Well, let's put in a strategy. When are you looking to go? Is it next year? Are you thinking 3 years? Do you want to save up a little money? Or do you want like that big 400-inch bull down in Arizona or, Utah or something like that? What do you want? Right. Or if you just want to just get out there and hunt as much as possible, there's opportunities to do that. And, you can get states where they're over-the-counter tags, or there's random draw states, or then there's the states with the preference pool where everyone gets put in, but based upon the number of points you have higher odds in achieving those draw results. There's some point, like different states might have, 25% for non-residents and 75% for residents. Again, there's different allocations to each and everything, but we really try to look for, based upon what the hunter is looking for, to put them in the best odds to draw those tags.
Okay, I'm just unpacking that in my brain. It's so complicated.
It is. To be honest with you, like I'm really good at my strategy, but outside of my strategy, I rely on the home office all the time to help people navigate that. I'll get you 75% of the way there because they're constantly changing. It's so hard to keep up on everything. But right now we're doing our applications in the home office out in Spearfish, South Dakota. And, I think last year we did something like around, 25,000 applications for our members. This year we're going to be over 50,000, and it's just growing and growing, and for a state like New York and the people here wanting to go out west, this is really a great opportunity to get in now, especially for the younger generation. You got people, grandchildren coming up. You can start buying points and accumulating at certain ages. Each state's a little different. So that way, by the time they're graduating or 20, 30 years old, you can have so many opportunities to choose from.
How much does a point cost?
Every state's different.
Are we talking thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars?
Like I'll use Colorado for an example.
Yeah.
You buy a license each year before you have to buy your point. It's like right now it's $99, for the license. But then if you want to buy a preference point for antelope, deer, elk, it's $10 per point each year.
Okay.
So that's
reasonable.
So $120, $130 a year is my investment for Colorado, depending on what you want to do.
Well, what's funny about that though is $120 a year, you can't even hunt yet.
I can't even hunt yet. No, but there's opportunities.
You get that license and you can't even use it yet.
But I'm only building points because I'm not ready to go out there. So I'm just building them up, stacking them up for when I want to. I can make decisions.
If you wanted to, you could just buy all the points you need.
One a year, right?
Oh, you're topped out at 1 year.
Yeah, it's like you can buy a point for each animal, right? But yeah, you can only buy one a year.
Oh, okay.
So there's units that are max point units where sometimes they might take 28 points. That's 28 years.
That's wild.
So like I said, this is where people coming into it, but that's for like super specific, is there like a management? Like it's different quality. You can go out there right now and buy. Here's another one for you. There's different seasons, right? First rifle, second rifle, third rifle. Different ones have different requirements. Again, we're from Colorado. Like they have a third season where you can go over the counter tags, but the first season you have to like draw. So there's different seasons,
like a lottery kind of thing. Yeah.
So and that's just Colorado. You get into like Utah and New Mexico. New Mexico, you don't need points. That's just a random draw for residents and non-residents. Montana, there's some areas where 1 to 3 points you can draw. Right, it's crazy, man, and be able to unpack that.
It's wild to me. Again, just things are so complicated, and I guess I get it. You got to have a system from a conservation standpoint. Yeah. The number of people hunting, if they all filled their tags, that would be a lot.
Yep.
Right, and so that would be a huge population call one time. Mm-hmm. So I guess you got to have a way to manage it, but still, it just
Yeah,
seems-
like I know for me specifically, like so my elk strategy is I got all my points maxed out for Montana, but I'm also looking to draw as many tags as I can next time I go out there. So I'm max point for deer and elk, but I want to be able to draw my antelope tag and a moose tag when I go out there. Because last time I was there, like I found some great areas. Now the area's going to be completely different when I go out there, but I know the area, I know the terrain, I've seen it, I know they're there, right? So I want as many tags in my pocket as possible, right? But like also like Wyoming, I'm building points. New Mexico, I don't have to, so I can just put in for the draw every year. If I draw, great, I'm going. If not,
got it.
I don't.
What happens if you don't fill your tag? Do you get to
Tag soup.
tag soup? Like those points are wasted if you don't fill the tag?
Yeah, so if you draw in and you draw your tag, those are your points, all those years accruing, and you go out there and you don't get anything, you're starting over.
Oh, God, that is terrible.
Yeah, it's an expensive soup.
Wow. Oh, God.
But that's like some people, like right now, like I try to help people. Okay, if you want to hunt elk every year, I can put you in places where you can hunt elk every year. So that way, you can gain the experience.
Yeah.
You can learn however you want to. But if you're really trying to build up for that trophy quality animal, and that's based upon like the score and the size of the animals and the game density. We can get you into like 14, 15, 16 point units, depending in some states where you're going out there. Not even that many. Like you can get a good quality hunt. There's big bulls everywhere, right? But you're going after a size, so that's why you try to draw. But at the end of the day, hunting's hunting. When the rut hits, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, all bets are off.
All bets are off, right? So that's why all our data is based on past information, right? We're taking everything that we have at place and trying to give people the best possible situation. But that rut heats up. You got people. There could be trophy units over here where they cross over to over-the-counter units.
Yeah, they break all the rules.
They do. So you really don't know. Sometimes you get lucky, right? You need that luck in that industry. You do when you go out there. Every hunter likes a little luck,
Or a lot of luck.
Oh, no one's going to complain with a lot of luck. They're going to tell you a skill, but, so we just help people put the strategies in place to give them the best opportunities and have the decisions to increase their future hunting opportunities.
You touched on before about the build or the hunt plan that you put together.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What is that?
Yeah, so I'll refer back to elk, right? So you want to go elk hunting, you don't know where to start. You're not, too focused on a particular state or area. So if I told you we had like 90 plus elk hunts that we vetted, that's very overwhelming for people.
Yeah.
Everything from, a $5,500 hunt to, $18,000.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Right. So budget is one of those factors in these hunt plans. But, we say, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's important to you? Is it food? Is it lodging? Is it the trophy quality? Is it the weapon? We put all this information into our proprietary software, and it's literally match.com for hunters. It will then spit out a list of best results based upon the criteria that you gave. And the more specific you are, the more useful that tool is going to be. And then we go through it as advisors. We say, review these hunts. Okay, so here's the top 5. We got one in Montana because this matched all your criteria. One in Wyoming, one in New Mexico, and based upon you wanting to go in 3 to 5 years, we can either hold off on New Mexico for 3 to 5 years and start drawing on those units, or we can build points in Wyoming right now for 3 to 5 and hope that they don't change those units and draw requirements, or in 2 years we can start applying in Montana, right? Those are 3 different strategies that it's going to take to get to those states, but it's all based upon what the hunter want, what they're looking for. We've already vetted it. To us, it doesn't matter which one you go with, right? It's what experience and adventure you're looking to get out of that, right? We want you fulfilled. We want to see your adventure dream lived out, or maybe you want to go this year and in 5 years, because you got the funds to do so. So let's put you in New Mexico and Montana and see if we can get you to draw. There's still a chance you can draw in Wyoming, but you want to be very careful. Is you don't want to start putting applications out, because what if you draw 2, 3 places? What if you draw 3? Right. Now you got decisions to make, right? And that happens. There are some strategies and people that are like, we're just going to put in everything, and if we draw, we draw. Yeah. Cool. The more times you put in, the better odds you are. It's just a mathematical equation at that point. And there's so many strategies built around it. But yeah, so the hunt plan really matches the hunter to the hunt based upon the information and criteria that, like I said, received by our members. So
I have champagne tastes on a beer budget. And so, what's that $5,500 hunt get you? Like, what does that look like for the cheap seats?
So those hunts are far and few between, but they're still out there, because everything's going up now.
Everything's so damn expensive. That's what,
But that hunt I went on was that hunt.
Okay.
That was an affordable one in my budget, and, we did our hunt. We took advantage of this thing we called a hunt expedition layaway plan, the help plan, where you put a down payment and you make monthly payments to help get you there. So that way you don't have to bite it all off, or mortgage your house right away, right?
I love a good layaway plan.
So, we used that. But that hunt, was a typical, we were going out there, we knew that the average bulls were going to be about 285 to 300 inches. And also we came across those two studs crawling up the thing.
Yeah.
So that's what we tell people. Your average representative animal is going to be between here. Opportunity for bigger absolutely exists, but this is what you can expect. Right. So some people really look at those numbers and they're, they can't get that out of their head. No,
yeah.
I want a 340 bull. Okay, well, we're going to go to those areas and you're probably going to pay a 340 bill price.
Yeah.
And now your budget just doubled, So, or you can go someplace that's got an average representative animal, still good, with the opportunity for bigger.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
you might get lucky, right? Like,
yeah,
it comes in front of you. And
you're just going to hold out,
And I remember hearing something on one of the podcasts I was listening to. They were talking about if you take a shot and you hit the animal but don't bring it down and don't recover the animal, that's your tag, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, different outfitters have different rules, right?
Yeah.
And so their resources are spent on that. So once they're going to do everything they can do to recover, and at that point your hunt's over until they recover it. Yeah, and if you don't recover it, because they're not going to go out there to wound the animals. That's where we go back to shot placement and having, being prepared to be able to put
being responsible,
2, 3.
And training.
Yeah, because you don't want to go out there and just start wounding animals. That's no good for anybody.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah.
That's why, all the anti-hunter people hate hunters, right? Because that's how they look at it, is we're just out there just brutalizing animals.
Yeah. And the other cool part about what is that we do, we help with all the the game preparation afterwards, right?
Okay.
Everyone goes, they want the meat, they want the hide, they want so we'll make sure all that stuff's taken care of. We can work with the outfitters. There's additional prices involved with that. That's all your game care afterwards.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, the outfitters they're gonna clean it, they're gonna prep it, they're gonna have a local butcher or someone in the area they can use to get all that meat back.
So you don't even have to field dress your own animal?
You don't, man.
I feel like I would want to, though.
So depending on which level, right? So you have your DIY hunts, your semi-guided hunts, your drop cans, or your fully guided. Your fully guided is always going to take care of everything for you.
Yeah.
There's going to be different fees and different options to add, or maybe different animals you can add with it. And when I say adding it, you're not buying animals, right?
Right.
You're just having another tag and opportunity to go out there and be able to, find something you're looking for or be opportunistic, right? That's like I said before in Montana, I want to have as many tags in my pocket. So if I come across something, my elk hunt could turn into a bear hunt, right? Or it could turn into an antelope or a moose hunt. Right, but you want to, in your mind, what's your priority? You don't want to get sidetracked. Because if you take a moose down, you're probably going to take a day and a half just to cut it up and get it back out depending where you are and where your vehicle is, or if you're guided or by yourself. That's going to affect the time you're out there.
Yeah.
Right. So an antelope's going to be a lot easier to clean and prepare than a moose. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's something out there.
Moose, I couldn't imagine packing that thing out of there.
You can do it.
I mean, if I had a multivitamin and a glass
You're not doing
of milk,
it all in one shot.
Oh my God, it's so much work. I think that's one thing that people don't understand about hunting is how much work it is physically.
Work starts after the animal's down.
Yeah, there is a lot that you need to do, and you're going to be sweaty and out of breath and tired when it's all done with. It's work. It's hard work.
Again, I learned from what happens and what not to do, right? I was a guy that went out there, I was in decent shape, so I thought, but I've never, got myself in shape for fresh tracks and 3 feet of snow, across mountain ranges, up and down hills.
When you were describing that, I was like, oh my God.
I never take the morning off. I couldn't get out of bed the next morning.
Oh, I bet.
I'm surprised I woke up. Like I said, I was ready to lay down for the wolves at the top of the mountain at that point. But no, it's just the preparation. Like I said, I'm able to share my experience with people now, because I've gone out there and done that, right?
Yeah.
So each and every hunt that I do, I'm going to have an experience tailored to me specifically. But there's a lot of other people that have had different experiences, right? And we have a community of advisors and resources, and years of people that have done it before. So,
what's aside from the Montana hunt, what do you think your craziest hunting story is?
My craziest hunting story? Oh God.
Like, or something just wild. Like, I'll give you an example. Do you know Cam LaBarge?
Yeah.
Do you know about his hunting video that went viral?
No.
I'm like his PR person, Cam. I think
And I'm actually disappointed that Cam didn't tell me. So
I can't believe it. So he was hunting. He was out in the woods on a sit, and I can't remember now I think it was a bird, like legit hopped on him and was harassing him. It was like, why? He's got the video, and like he posted it on the internet, and this was years ago. But he like posted on the internet, like got like millions of views, and like this whole. And I think I'm trying to remember, like I don't know if it was Barstool or somebody like asked if they could share like this whole thing. Yeah, you got to ask him about it and have him show you the video. It's wild.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't hear about that one.
Yeah. No, you need to. You need
Thanks,
to see
Cam.
the video. Yeah, what the hell, Cam? What's funny is every time I'm in public with Cam, I think I bring that up. At one point, he's like, "Dude, I need to like hire you to be my PR guy or something." I'm like, yeah, obviously. Yeah. Like, geez, we would have made some money off that video.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we talk about how everything originated, and Cam and I talked. We were trying to put something together for him and his father.
Yeah.
To get a moose hunt and everything like that. And obviously everything's got its way to work itself out.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. But yeah, there's something out there for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had some wild stories. I've had. I've been sitting there. I've had birds laying on the barrel as I'm about ready to blast a turkey. I've had bobcats stalk me to my stand and sit there stare at me for, an hour and a half to where I'm literally trying to spook him to go away at that point.
Right. No deer's coming in to bobcats.
I've had deer from me away on another side of a pine tree calling them in, and they wouldn't stop. They just keep coming. They just keep coming to the point where like, do I knife them? What do I do? And all these scenarios, but every scenario has been different. Like I said, I've never had the same experience, and that's what I love about it. There's so much to do. If you can sit down and listen, you can get yourself lost, and when you're out there, all bets are off. I was walking out to the turkey stand one morning, and 10 feet away as I'm walking, because it's in the morning, it's early. Sometimes I sit up early, sometimes I wait for day to break. Walking, it's foggy, and there's a coyote standing right in the middle of my path, just staring at me from 10 feet away. And I'm like, oh. And then when I stopped, he didn't move, and I'm just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, right.
Is this happening? I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. I guess I'm just gonna sit here and wait, and I slowly start to move and grab my gun just in case. And he obviously ran off, and now it wasn't the coyote season at that point, so I can't shoot him. But I didn't know what to expect. I'd rather take my chances. So there's all crazy things that happen. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, during the rut, I was out back, and this freaking like 4-point buck that I wasn't going to shoot. I was going to let him go a couple of years. And like, it was like a cartoon is the only way that I can explain it to people, where this buck is like walking, and all of a sudden, like, when your dog gets the zoomies? Mm-hmm. Well, this deer got the zoomies, right? He starts like ripping around in circles. And at one point, I'm in my stand, I'm looking down, and there's like this path right here, and he's running like this. And there's probably 7 or 8 doe milling around in this field. And he goes running across like this, lanky legs going all over the place, tongue out of his mouth, eyes. I mean, it looked like a cartoon. I don't even know how else to explain it. It was the wildest thing. I was like, what is this deer doing, dude? Like, it was crazy. It was like he was just running down the thing.
So my dad will appreciate that you said that. We went on a deer hunt up in New Brunswick, and he was telling me about the story, how there's this buck, and there's a bunch of does around it, but he was like he's on all fours, obviously, but his butt was up in the air and his front legs were, and he just kept on backing up backwards. It was almost like he was twerking at the time with his other deer. And I'm like, there's no way this is happening, Dad. Like, I don't believe you.
Right.
And he's trying to show me his mannerisms. And my dad is super animated when he talks anyways and acts things out. And he's doing all this. I'm like, I don't believe it. But now after hearing your story, I'm going to give him a little credibility.
It was the wildest thing. I'm watching this deer do this, and I'm like, is this really happening right now? Like, he looks like something out of a Looney Tunes show. It was so cartoonish what that deer was doing. It was wild.
Yep. No, and it's my very first interaction with deer was with my dad. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I had a little red recurve bow that you had to put the string on.
Yeah.
And he gave me the arrows. I thought I was going out hunting with my dad.
Yeah.
Like, right, and we're sitting down, and all of a sudden 2 deer just come running by us, whipping across, full on sprint, and all of a sudden the 4 or 5 coyotes behind it chasing it. I'm just sitting there, and my dad got up to try to take a shot, and I'm just sitting there like, I didn't even know what happened.
Right.
But like, it was wild. It was intense. It was scary. There were so many emotions involved. And that was my very first
you were
interaction.
hooked.
And I'm like, I got to get out there. But I didn't really start hunting until after college. You know, grew up playing 3 sports. I never had time to hunt.
Yeah.
My dad was always going out there and, you know, he'd always have luck. So we got bucks all over the house and everything like that. But I didn't really get a chance to get into it till after college. You know, so like I said, anything I can do now to help the youth get involved and start, you know, having a plan or strategy so that they have future opportunities now, because there's so many wild stories and experiences out there waiting for people. You're not just, it's not always about harvesting an animal or shooting an animal. It's just the experience in the outdoors. It's or
the people you're with, or
it's almost like and I say this to Rob a lot when I see him. It's almost like its own religion in a sense. There's a sense of peace and there's a spiritual connection you have out there in the forest when you're out there. If you really let it happen and open yourself up and just listen, right? There's so many things. Like that's my way to get out and, you know, kind of separate myself from the world. So yeah.
Does Rob hunt?
I'm not going to say yes or no.
Got it. Well, yes. Do you think that the population of people hunting is up, down, flat?
There's definitely, I mean, we do studies all the time, or there's information out there. Like I think there's over like 600,000 license holders in New York State alone. And that number keeps on going up and up. You know, the industry in itself is billions of dollars. You know, there's so many opportunities from a sportsman or someone looking to get in that field, especially with social media and influencers and everything these days. Yeah. There's so many opportunities. But, you know, I'll use social media, for example. It's a blessing and a curse. It brings awareness, but also draws a lot of publicity that the industry doesn't need.
Trolls.
There's so many people out there just, you know, hating on it. And I get it, you know, but to each his own. And
that's like me with the USDA on Twitter. I just troll them all day long.
Yeah. You know, everyone's got their own experience, but then you break it up to each state and nothing's the same wherever you go. And so it's hard. But yeah.
I'm excited about it. For you, with what you're doing.
Well, I'm going to hunt turkeys in your backyard because you have them.
I know. Just got to share the meat. Well, it's funny because last year, I was thinking about it last year, but then I bought turkeys to raise on the farm, which I did. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to go freaking hunt them. All I got to do is go out into the barnyard. Yeah. I know we're getting short on time, or we might even be actually a little bit over our time. If people want to learn more about you, what you're doing, how to contact you, all that fun stuff, where do they find you?
Yeah, so Jake at rbohome.com, or my website is revers.rollingbonesoutfitters.com. That's my agency page. Same thing for social media on Facebook, the Revers Agency at Rolling Bones Outdoors. And you know what? We talked about the software a little bit earlier, but I've never seen an application where you can go on there, you can put all your goals on there, you can do your hunt plans, you have a vetted adventure catalog, you have all your application information right there in one spot. So no matter if you're a DIY hunter, someone who's never hunted before, if you have like max points holder in certain states and you're looking to go out there, or if you're just an average guy like I was when I started, you know, not knowing where to start.
You were never an average guy, Jake.
Maybe below. I was trying to give myself a little bit of credit. But, you know, there's a place and it's a tool and resource. Everything's right there. Yeah. You have so much support. You know, it is a membership based agency where there's different member levels for everyone. To someone who wants like just an access pass to maybe a one-time hunt or, you know, discount on gear or shooting courses. There's that membership. There's an application membership. There's someone who's looking for more dialed in strategies that have had years of experience and they're trying to get focused on specific units or strategies. You know, and then there's another level called our Diamond Advantage add-on, which is pretty cool. You know, there's 5 states out west: Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Arizona. 14 species, 37 different hunts. If you draw that tag, you know, we'll pay for your hunt. You know,
oh, really?
Yep. You know, all random draw odd states. You know, it's all based on that draw and luck. We've had members draw the first year. You know, we have members taking a couple of years. But it's an exciting opportunity that we've partnered with one of our outfitters to really help make that come true. And that's a separate strategy in itself. Yeah. Right. So there's a little bit of everything out there for someone. I think was it our owner's wife, Lindley, says we may not have everything you want, but we have something you need.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a great place to start. A bunch of resources. I mean, we've known each other for years. You know, it's all about the service and experience that you receive, and we're trying to bring that boutique approach to the outdoor industry. And you know, we hope to have adventure hubs up here in New York. You know, as we continue to grow, and that may happen, you know, sooner than later. We'll see. But those are the things that I'm trying to help bring to this area.
Do you know how cool that sounds?
I love what I do, Mike. I've never had so much fun doing what I do.
When people ask me what I do, you know what I get to say? I get to say exciting things like marketing and SEO. You get to say shit like Adventure Hub.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing?
I mean, imagine walking into one of these places, you're looking for a hunt, you see some packs on the wall or some gear, you know, or you don't even know what gaiters are, right? And all of a sudden you start being fitted for things that you didn't know how they work the right way. And you're like, wow, this is how this is supposed to fit? Oh, my boots never fit like that. You know?
I've been doing it wrong the whole time.
You know, and we're just a resource to help people get it right.
That's amazing. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming out to the show.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing, man. Like I said, I love it. I think it's amazing. Any way we can support, let us know. Happy to do it. Speaking of support, thanks everybody. Thanks to our community partners that make all this happen, make this all happen. And for the listeners that listen and viewers that view, appreciate all of you as well. So thanks again for listening, and you'll hear from us next week.